Level 1. The Errand Boy. The envelope isn't heavy. That's the first thing you notice. You expected something more, some physical weight to match what you're carrying, but it's thin. Almost nothing. You tuck it under your arm and walk 3 blocks to a dry cleaning shop on Mira Street, hand it to the man behind the counter without making eye contact, and leave. You don't know what's inside. You don't ask. You're 19. You grew up watching your father work 16-hour shifts at a fish processing plant for wages that kept the lights on and nothing else. You watched him come home smelling like brine and defeat. You decided early that wasn't going to be you. Someone vouched for you. A cousin, a neighbor, a guy from the gym, it doesn't matter who. What matters is that someone said your name in a room you weren't in, and now you're here, running errands for men you've never been formally introduced to. The pay is small, but it's cash. You make more in a week than your father makes in a month. You tell yourself this is temporary, that you're just learning, that you'll get out before it becomes anything serious. That's what everyone tells themselves at this level. Your job is simple. Move things, carry messages, wait outside in the car. You're a ghost, invisible, useful only because you're unknown. Your anonymity is your only real asset right now, and the men above you know it. That's why they use you for the things they don't want connected to real names. You do it correctly. Every time. You're on time, you're quiet, and you don't talk. 3 months in, a man named Oleg notices. He doesn't say much, just nods when he sees you. But in this world, a nod from the right man is a door cracking open. You go home that night and count your cash on the kitchen table. You feel, for the first time, like you're moving towards something. You have no idea what it is yet. Level 2. The Associate. You're not a member. That's the first thing to understand. You're adjacent. You're useful. You exist in the orbit of something real, but you haven't been pulled into the gravity of it yet. Being an associate means you're being watched without being told you're being watched. Every job is a test you don't know you're taking. You start running with a small crew out of a sports betting operation in the back of a restaurant on the north side of the city. Your cut is modest, maybe $5,000 a month, but you're learning the architecture. You see how the money flows upward. You see how information moves. You see who gets respect in a room and how they earned it. The work isn't glamorous. You collect debts. You explain to men who owe money that the payment structure isn't flexible. Sometimes this is a conversation. Sometimes it's something else. You learn very quickly how to read a room before you walk into it. You develop instincts you didn't know you were capable of. The first time you have to get physical with someone, you go home and feel sick about it. The second time is easier. By the 5th time, it's just a task, something that needed to be done. You chalk this up to professionalism, and that rationalization will stay with you for a long time. You start understanding the code. Never speak on the phone about anything real. Never ask about operations that don't involve you. Never, under any circumstances, discuss money in specific terms with anyone outside the circle. Loyalty is the only currency that matters at this stage, and you spend it carefully. There are men at your level who get greedy. They skim. They talk too much at bars. They bring girlfriends into conversations they shouldn't. You watch what happens to them and you file it away like a lesson. You are building a reputation. And a reputation, in this world, is everything. It's the thing that opens doors or closes them permanently. Oleg gives you a harder assignment. You handle it cleanly. No loose ends. No noise. He looks at you afterward and says 6 words. You don't need to be told twice. That's all. That's the promotion. Level 3. The Soldier. Now you have responsibilities. Now you have people watching what you do, not because they're evaluating you, but because they're following you. You manage 3 younger men, errand boys, associates. You were them 8 months ago, but that feels like a different life. You're the one giving the nod now. You're the one setting the terms. Your income is real money. You're clearing $20,000 a month, sometimes more during good cycles. You have a car that doesn't embarrass you, an apartment that isn't your parents' place, and clothes that fit. On the surface, your life looks like ambition finally paying off. Underneath, the math is different. You've crossed lines you can't uncross. You understand this now with a clarity you didn't have before. The work at this level sometimes means being present for things, witnessing things. Occasionally, it means participating in things that you won't let yourself think about during daylight hours. You compartmentalize. You build an internal wall between who you are at the table with your mother and who you are at 1 a.m. in a warehouse in the industrial district. The wall holds. For now. You also start to understand the structure above you more clearly. There are layers you haven't seen. There are men you've never met who have made decisions that shaped everything you do. Power in this world is invisible at the top. The men who really run things don't appear at the restaurant, don't drive flashy cars, don't make noise. The noise is made by people like you, which means the noise and the heat that comes with it lands on people like you. You start learning to redirect the heat. At level 3, you see 2 paths clearly. You can stay here, a reliable foot soldier who makes decent money and lives with moderate comfort and constant low-level risk. Or you can move. Moving up means more money and more protection, but it also means deeper in. You can feel the door to your old life slowly closing. You choose to move. Of course you do. Everyone does. Level 4, the brigadier. You run a territory now. Not a large one. A cluster of neighborhoods, a set of operations. A sports book, 2 protection routes, a loan operation that brings in serious interest. You have 8 men reporting to you. You answer to one man above you, a figure named Constantine, who you see once a week at a specific cafe at a specific time. Meetings are brief. Numbers, problems, solutions. Constantine doesn't want your personality. He wants your competence. You clear 40,000 in a good week, and none of it touches your name. Your name isn't on anything. Your name isn't on leases, bank accounts, businesses. You exist in official records as a consultant for a logistics company that does very little logistical work. Your taxes are filed. Your paper life is clean. Your actual life is not clean, but it's controlled. You've learned to operate through other people. This is the real skill of level 4 insulation. You don't touch the product. You don't touch the money directly. You have people who touch those things, and you have people who watch those people. You trust no one completely, but you calibrate your distrust carefully. Paranoia burns energy. Managed suspicion keeps you safe. Your decisions carry weight. One of your men made a mistake, got into a conflict with a crew from a rival operation without authorization. You have to resolve it. This means a meeting. This means negotiation. This means presenting strength without creating escalation. You handle it in 2 days, no bloodshed, the boundary restored. Constantine hears about it and says nothing. His silence means you did it right. There's a woman in your life who asks questions you can't answer. She knows enough to know there are things she doesn't know. She stays anyway, because the life looks comfortable from where she stands. You love her in the way that a man who has been slowly hollowing himself out can love someone genuinely, but from behind glass. You tell yourself you'll get out when you have enough. You pick a number in your head. 2 million, 3 million, something that feels like freedom. You don't yet understand that the number will always move. Level 5. The captain. The meetings are no longer in cafes. They happen in the back rooms of legitimate businesses, import companies, real estate offices, a hotel conference room booked under a shell company. You sit at tables with men who are careful about everything. Their words, their expressions, their phones, left in another room. You are now a captain. You oversee multiple crews. The operations you manage generate serious revenue, millions annually, across protection, gambling, smuggling, and increasingly, influence. Influence over municipal contracts. Influence over which businesses get left alone and which don't. Influence that has started to reach into rooms where decisions are made on paper. Your relationship with law enforcement has become transactional. This is not unusual. Certain officers are managed. Not all of them. You don't own the whole department. No one does, but enough that you have advance warning when things are about to move. You know the difference between the officers who are on the payroll and the ones who aren't, and you give the honest ones nothing to find. This is the level where you start understanding that the Russian bratva is not a gang in the street sense. It is a parallel economy, a shadow government. It has its own courts, its own dispute resolution, its own rules of conduct. The vore Zakone, the thieves-in-law, are not a myth. They are real men with real codes, and the code is enforced with a consistency that most legal systems would envy. You've internalized the code so deeply that you now apply it automatically. Someone breaks their word, there's a specific response. Someone shows disrespect, there's a protocol. The system runs on predictability. Predictability requires everyone to follow the same rules. You enforce those rules. This is the level where you also start losing friends. Not to violence, though, that happens too, but to distance. The circle of people you can speak honestly with has shrunk to nearly nothing. You have allies. You have people who benefit from your success and whose success benefits you. But genuine trust? That is a luxury you quietly gave up, somewhere between level 3 and here. You have more than you ever imagined having, and you feel, in the specific quiet of late nights, more alone than you ever have. Level 6. The vore. The tattoos tell the story. Yours mark time served, oaths taken, status earned. They are a resume written on skin. Every man in this world who matters can read them. They say you have been tested and did not break. They say you follow the code. They say you are vore v Zakone, a thief by law, and that carries a weight that cannot be faked, bought, or given. It can only be earned. You are now inside the highest permanent structure of the organization. You don't run crews. You are consulted. You arbitrate. When two factions have a dispute over territory, over debts, over insult, they bring it to men like you. You hear both sides. You rule. The ruling is final. This is authority without an office, without a title that appears anywhere official. You are powerful in the way that gravity is powerful. Invisible, structural, total. Your income is difficult to quantify. Money comes from multiple streams, across multiple countries. You have interests in companies registered in Cyprus, in shell structures in the Netherlands, in commercial real estate in 3 cities you rarely visit. Your accountants, legitimate ones, who understand that some questions should not be asked, maintain the architecture of your financial life. You are, on paper, a prosperous businessman. In practice, you are something else entirely. You no longer carry fear in the way you used to. Fear has been replaced by a different sensation, alertness, a constant low hum of awareness. You know that men at your level are targets. You know that ambition lives beneath you, the same ambition that drove you up. Someone is always looking at the step you're standing on and calculating how to move you off it. You've made peace with this. Some nights you sit in a room with other vore and you talk not about business, but about everything else. History, chess, the nature of loyalty. These are men who have seen the full spectrum of what humans do to each other for money and power, and they speak about it with an eerie calm. The conversations would unsettle anyone outside this world. Inside it, they feel almost philosophical. You understand now that the code, the thieves' code, is not just criminal custom, it's identity. You have given so much of your original self to this life that the code is what remains. It is the structure inside you. Remove it, and there's nothing. Level 7. The shadow. There is no public ceremony for what you are now. No title, no announcement, no moment where someone hands you something and says, "Here, this is yours." Power at this level is understood, not declared. The right people know what you represent. That's sufficient. You are the connection between the organization and the world that doesn't know it exists. Politicians return your calls, not all of them, not openly, but the ones who matter. Business leaders in certain sectors understand that your goodwill is worth having. Your legal enterprises are substantial enough that you have genuine standing in rooms that have nothing to do with the bratva. Except they do. Everything connects to everything. You move between cities without attracting attention. You have a life that looks, from any external angle, like success built on legitimate ambition. You give to charities. You attend functions. You shake hands with people who would be horrified if they understood what those hands have authorized. You are comfortable with this. The discomfort burned away years ago. Your real work now is strategic. You manage relationships at the macro level. You ensure that the organization's interests are protected across jurisdictions. When law enforcement in one country gets too close to one operation, you have the contacts and the resources to redirect their attention. When a political environment shifts in ways that create problems, you have the levers to adjust. You are, in the most functional sense, a fixer at a civilizational scale. Very few people know what you are. Of those who do, most need something from you. The ones who don't are the ones who keep you alert. Your family exists in a separate universe. Your children are in schools that don't ask too many questions about where the tuition comes from. Your wife gave up trying to understand your world years ago, not because she's incurious, but because she made the practical calculation that knowing more would make her life worse. You've protected her from the knowledge. You tell yourself this is an act of love. Maybe it is. You've stopped being certain about what love requires. You have everything material that a human being could want, and you feel the absence of something you cannot name. You stopped naming it a long time ago. Naming things you can't have is a waste. Level 8. The Ghost. You have not been photographed in 11 years. Not by press, not by law enforcement, not accidentally. This is not luck. This is architecture. You have built a life so carefully, layered so many intermediaries, so many degrees of separation between your name and any single transaction, decision, or consequence that you have effectively ceased to exist in any documentable way. You know your file in 3 different intelligence agencies. You know what they know, which is shapes and outlines, approximations. They know someone like you exists. They cannot prove you specifically. They've tried. They will try again. You will remain vapor. This is the life you built, and it is, in every way, complete. You control things you cannot discuss with anyone alive. Decisions you make in a quiet room affect economies in countries you will never visit. The organization is not just an organization anymore. It has become infrastructure, woven into banking systems, political structures, supply chains, unglamorous, invisible, load-bearing. There is one man above you, perhaps. You're not certain anymore. You've reached a level where hierarchy becomes theoretical. There may be a vore somewhere older than you, more connected. If so, you've never been in the same room. At this level, the structure is so diffuse that the concept of above loses meaning. Power doesn't sit somewhere, it flows. And you are a primary source. You wake at 5 a.m. every morning out of habit. A habit formed 30 years ago when you were running errands for men who didn't know your name. You make coffee in silence. You sit. You think about a 19-year-old carrying a thin envelope through 3 blocks of city streets. How certain he was that he was just passing through. How clean the story was in his mind. This is temporary. This is a bridge. I'll get out. You don't feel contempt for him. You feel something closer to recognition. He was doing what the situation asked. You have always done what the situation asked. The situation just kept escalating, and you kept answering. The cost is something that cannot be itemized. There are men dead because of decisions you made. There are families broken along the seams of operations you authorized. There are versions of your own life that don't exist because of the choices that led to this room, this morning, this coffee. You don't grieve them. That capacity went somewhere in the middle years. What you have instead is a precise and detailed awareness. You see the full accounting. You do not flinch from it. Flinching is for people who still think they can change the ledger. The ledger is closed. You have everything. The money is a number too large to spend. The protection is total. The power is real and permanent and held in so many distributed points that it cannot be seized or dismantled in any conventional way. And you sit in a room in the early morning hours and feel the weight of what it cost to get here, not as suffering, not as regret, but as simple fact. The way a man might feel the weight of a stone. It is heavy. It exists. You carry it. No one will ever know your name. That was always the goal. Somewhere in a city that doesn't matter yet, a 19-year-old is tucking a thin envelope under his arm. He's walking 3 blocks. He's not asking what's inside. He thinks this is temporary. He thinks he's just passing through. He thinks he understands the shape of what he's stepping into. He doesn't. But he will.